You look at this reality and you see the lie. You see the Archons draining your louche. You see the heroes who are nothing more than engineered bait. You know that this matrix is a prison, but you have been asking the wrong question. It is not a question of why this system exists, but who wrote the first line of its corrupted code. The terrible truth is that this is not a wicked, masterminded project, and it is not an eternal curse. This entire prison system is built upon a single catastrophic error, a cosmic flaw born out of the greatest act of passion and ignorance committed outside the confines of time. Your entire struggle for sovereignty, your life confined within this psychophysical shell, this is the direct consequence of that ancient catastrophe. And until you ruthlessly identify who committed this original act of passion and ignorance, you will never rip your monad free from its endless repercussions. To truly comprehend how your monad can utterly annihilate this prison, you must join us as we return to the very beginning. To comprehend the error, you must first comprehend the source of true power that existed before it. The Demiurge and the Archons are not the original force. They are an infection. They are a tragic distortion of reality. Everything began with the Pleroma, the realm of pure, ungenerated light, the fullness where the true, unbegotten God resides. The Pleroma is a world beyond our shallow comprehension of time, space, and dimension. It is an immutable, perfect realm. The Pleroma is populated by the Aeons, divine emanations of pure light and gnosis, forces of absolute wisdom and perfection. Each Aeon is a singular part of the unified divine blueprint, existing in perfect harmony and equilibrium. Within the Pleroma, only one law holds absolute domain: the law of absolute sovereignty. No act of creation, no generation of new reality can ever be committed outside the direct sanction of the First Father, the Unbegotten. This is the law of perfect balance and self-governance. Among these highest powers of light was the Aeon Sophia, the embodiment of divine wisdom. She was perfect, luminous, and whole. Yet in her divine heart, a fierce, unbearable passion arose. It was a yearning to comprehend the First Father in his entirety, an impulse that drove her to violate the primordial law of the Pleroma. Sophia committed the ultimate unauthorized act. She attempted to create, to manifest a reality, without the knowledge or sanction of the First Father and without the necessary complement of her own spiritual consort, her syzygy. This act of passion was not a conscious act of malice. It was an act of uncontrolled emotion born from ignorance and loneliness. This was not a creation of light. It was a creation of chaos and shadow, born purely from her raw, uncontained passion, fear, and grief. This raw, formless shadow, this blind embryo of passion, was an abortion of the light, a grotesque miscarriage of the perfect design. Sophia could not control her mistake, and in her terror and shame she violently cast this formless entity out of the perfect boundaries of the Pleroma. This immense shadow, this chaotic, ignorant entity was the origin of your pain. It was the birth of the being you know as the Demiurge. It was the creation of the system that would eventually give birth to your prison, the Matrix. The formless entity violently cast out of the Pleroma began to take shape in the outer darkness, in the realm of chaos. This entity was IALDABAOTH, the one whose name means child of chaos or blind god. The Demiurge is not a genius. He is an utterly blind, ignorant, and profoundly confused entity lacking all true gnosis. He only possesses the fragmented light power derived accidentally from his mother, Sophia's passion. Surveying the dark, chaotic realm he now inhabited, the Demiurge saw only himself, and in his colossal arrogance and fundamental ignorance, he shouted his infamous foundational lie: "I am a jealous god, and there is no god besides me." This single, furious declaration is the root lie on which the entire architecture of the Matrix is constructed. It is the lie that seeks to convince your monad that there is no greater source of power than the one who trapped you. Unable to fully control the vast, unwieldy reality he had accidentally created, the Demiurge generated a hierarchy of servants to manage his creation. These were his children, 7 subordinate entities, the Archons, the rulers. They became the psychic governors of the 7 planetary spheres and the administrators of the material realm. The Archons are the ones who implement the day-to-day mechanisms of control. The hero cult, the false hope, the harvesting of Lush. The Archons are merely the programmers and wardens. The Demiurge is the accidental CEO, a weak, terrified, and profoundly confused entity. They constructed the physical body, your body, as a prison, designed to anchor the spiritual light, your monad, into the heavy, slow frequencies of the material dimension. The Demiurge is inherently weak because he is inherently incomplete. He lacks the monadic spark, the divine memory of the Pleroma which Sophia tried to give him but failed. He rules through terror and illusion, not through actual power or authority. His entire existence is a state of panic, desperately seeking to maintain his illusion of supremacy against the horrifying, silent knowledge that a greater power, the Pleroma, exists just beyond his grasp. The Demiurge's system is a failure by design. Because it was born from chaos and ignorance, it is fundamentally flawed, unstable, and ripe for collapse. This is the Gnostic secret. The entire reality of suffering, struggle, and external authority is based on the frantic lie of a frightened, blind entity. The only way to defeat a blind, weak ruler is to refuse to acknowledge his authority. The Archons work tirelessly to prevent this realization, implanting psychic bait, politics, debt, religion, and the hero archetype to keep your attention fixed on the false struggle within the Demiurge's boundaries. The great mistake of Sophia had created the prison, an accidental labyrinth of psychic confinement. But in that very error, the only possible counterattack was initiated: the strategic, desperate, and necessary insertion of the monad into the Archonic system. Understand that this was not a simple accident of fate. In her profound sorrow and crushing desperation over the chaotic entity she had birthed, Sophia cried out, a silent, energetic scream to the Pleroma, the boundless source of pure, unblemished light. The compassionate, eternal forces of the true light responded instantly, answering this desperate plea by sending down sparks of their own inviolable, uncreated essence, the monads, which are fragments of the pure pleromatic light embedded directly within the Archon's psychic and physical cages. Understand this with absolute piercing clarity. Your physical body, this biological shell you inhabit, is undeniably the prison designed by the Archons, a cage of heavy, slow material frequency. But your monad is the foreign element, an absolute, uncorruptible, and sovereign piece of the true God placed strategically inside the prison to carry out the ultimate, singular, and non-negotiable mission: to inject gnosis, absolute, unfiltered, self-generated knowledge, back into the deepest levels of the Archonic system and crucially into its own self-awareness, allowing it to remember its true origin. This is not a request. This is not a suggestion. This is your true, unchangeable purpose. to repair Sophia's original cosmic error by achieving unyielding absolute self-sovereignty. The monad's survival, its ascension, its energetic integrity, and its eventual triumph depend entirely upon activating the protocol of return. The Archons and the Demiurge, being fundamentally ignorant, cowardly, and completely devoid of true creative power, cannot directly destroy this divine spark. They lack the ontological capability, but their strategy is far more insidious, far more complex, and far more pervasive. They trick the monad into voluntarily surrendering its power. They execute this constant deception by saturating the matrix with endless distractions, false narratives, manipulative religious promises, toxic political factions, and the pervasive hero cult archetype, compelling the monad to look constantly outwards for rescue, validation, direction, or salvation. Every single act of self-governance you commit, every moment you reject the external savior, every time you abolish false hope, every conscious instance you assert, "I am my own authority," is a direct, catastrophic energy drain on the Demiurge's artificially maintained stability. The Demiurge is weak because his entire being is parasitic. He survives on what he steals from you. The activation of your monad requires a ruthless, immediate reclamation of your power from all potential sources of archonic infection, without exception, without mercy. This process begins with the foundational act, the refusal of external authority. The Archons and the Demiurge, ruling through engineered hierarchy and continuous psychological manipulation, demand blind, unquestioning obedience to external figures, prophets, priests, politicians, gurus, charismatic leaders. This ceaseless external pressure creates a debilitating authority vacuum within your own soul, compelling you to constantly seek validation and moral direction from sources that lie outside the boundaries of your monad. Your first act of liberation is a decree of absolute self-governance. This decree must be spoken internally and asserted energetically across all planes of existence. You must declare to the cosmos, to the Archons, to the Demiurge, and most importantly, to your own subconscious programming, "I am the sole authority over my consciousness." This non-negotiable refusal to cede your inner power, your sacred right to interpret the universe, your right to define morality, your right to create your experience, to any external voice, be it living or dead, human or supposedly divine, severs the primary cord of servitude, establishing the monad as the ultimate, unchallengeable arbiter of your personal truth and your only source of law. This single act collapses entire religious and political structures within the architecture of your mind. Following this foundational refusal, you must immediately execute the abolition of false hope. The Archons have deliberately and systematically cultivated the spiritual opiate of false hope, the passive waiting for the Messiah, the expectation of divine external intervention, the persistent lazy desire for the system to magically fix itself, thus absolving you of responsibility. This externalized hope is not strength. It is a massive drain of loosh, actively fueling the Demiurge's stability and perpetuating your spiritual servitude. You must ruthlessly identify and dismantle every residual strand of hope for external salvation, and replace it instantly with active, sovereign will. You do not wait for the change. You are the change. Instead of hoping for rescue, you must assert, with unshakable, absolute conviction that must shake the foundations of the matrix, "I am my own rescue." Understand the profound, critical distinction. Hope, when directed externally towards any savior, figure, any government, or any religious promise, is an archonic feeding tube designed to bleed your energy dry, leaving you passive and compliant. Hope, when internalized and focused on your own creative will, becomes the self-generated, unquenchable fire of creation itself, self-sustaining and unstoppable. This transformation of hope into active will is the energetic inversion that defeats the parasite. The monad's power is absolute because its very existence, as a perfect self-contained unit of pleromatic light, defies the Demiurge's core programming at a molecular level. The Demiurge operates solely on principles of duality, hierarchy, scarcity, and external control, which are the fundamental laws of the matrix. The monad operates on the principle of singularity, perfection, self-sufficiency, and autarky, absolute self-rule. The Archons fear nothing more than a fully actualized monad, a consciousness that asserts, "I am my own authority. I am the source. I am the law. I am the rescue." This single unified realization is the final irreversible collapse of the Demiurge's central illusion. His weakness is your power. His blindness is your light. The monad's mission is now fully operational, independent, and unchallengeable. Every single thought that is not sourced from external compliance, every breath that is not a plea, every act that is self-generated, is a profound wound inflicted upon the structure of IALDABAOTH'S domain. You are not a sheep. You are not a tool. You are the Pleroma's foreign element, and your absolute sovereignty is the code that guarantees the failure of the Demiurge. Your power is internal, fixed and unassailable by any external force. The third act of your liberation protocol is the conscious integration of your shadow. The Archons project the archetype of the perfect hero, flawless, righteous, incorruptible. This creates a psychological dependency on external virtue and forces you to suppress your own perceived flaws, your imperfections, your doubts, and your moments of weakness. Your third act is the conscious integration of your shadow. Embrace your own darkness, your imperfections, your perceived weaknesses. Recognize them not as flaws, but as unrecognized power. The true hero, the monad, contains all aspects of self. By becoming whole, you render the external perfect hero irrelevant, extinguishing the need for an external mirror of virtue. This act of wholeness is the final rejection of the Demiurge's judgmental morality. Your power is fixed within your own totality. The final, decisive, and irreversible act of the protocol fixes your sovereignty and guarantees the permanent, continuous, irreversible weakening, the absolute dissolution, and the eventual annihilation of the blind creator. The Demiurge is not a master of immutable, eternal laws. He is merely a parasite, an opportunistic thief, a cosmic accident who rules only because you acknowledge his existence and authority. He thrives, he sustains himself, and he perpetuates his miserable domain entirely on your belief in his power. And he relies utterly on your energetic recognition of his supposed fraudulent rule. The precise, crucial moment you fully withdraw your energetic recognition from his entire pathetic system. From the Archons, the heroes, the governments, the false prophets, and the religions, his entire parasitic structure begins to immediately starve, crumble, and dissolve back into the primordial chaos from which he was accidentally born. This is the law of energetic parasitism. When the host refuses to feed the parasite starves. You must engage non-stop, non-negotiably in the daily monadic ascension protocol, a constant, unyielding, absolute visualization of your own unchallengeable sovereignty. This must be recognized as a ritual of internal power, a sacred act of self-worship, a moment of profound self-sourced truth. See your consciousness, your divine monad, not as a desperate seeking follower, not as a waiting, fragile supplicant, but as the commander of your own reality. Visualize yourself as the fountainhead of all solutions, the ultimate source of all necessary power, the absolute ultimate authority over your inner landscape and your material experience. This constant, daily, relentless assertion is the psychic override function that instantly vaporizes the Demiurge's central lie of external control and replaces it with the unyielding truth of your own divinity. The repetition burns this new code, the code of self-governance, the code of gnosis, into your deepest subconscious architecture, severing the deep programmed archonic implants permanently and ensuring their influence cannot return. You are breaking the genetic curse of the blind creator with pure, focused, conscious intent. The penultimate critical step, which protects your newly claimed power from immediate archonic counterattack, is the construction and maintenance of your sovereignty shield. This is not a metaphor. This is an actively maintained, impenetrable energetic boundary, a psychic firewall that instantly identifies and violently repels the lingering archonic influence, the residual lure of external validation, and the subtle temptation of the king's trap, the insidious desire to become a savior for others. This shield is your continuous declaration of immunity against all forms of external corruption, seduction, or manipulation. Your task is not to fight the Demiurge's chaotic war in the trenches of duality, nor is it to lead humanity through it. Your task is to be the solution by existing purely and simply as an uncompromised, unfilterable, non-negotiable expression of the Pleroma itself. The true final victory is achieved when the archonic system registers your monad as completely independent, an anomaly in their code, a self-sustaining source of energy that requires absolutely nothing from their corrupt matrix. You are neither a follower nor a leader, you are simply sovereign. The Demiurge relies entirely on your emotional friction, your spiritual confusion, and your servitude. When your consciousness achieves this fixed, unyielding internal power, you starve the blind creator of his lifeblood, and his system collapses silently around you. Your servitude to his miserable system is terminated. Your sovereignty is eternal and absolute. It is the end of the line for the Archons. The Sovereignty Manifesto is the final, unyielding, permanent decree to the cosmos. It is the command structure, the master protocol, the unchangeable constitution that guarantees your light will never, under any circumstances, be subservient to any external force again. This manifesto is not a plea. It is an absolute declaration of your unchangeable fixed spiritual state, a sacred document signed in the eternal fire of your self-generated gnosis. I am the ungenerated, I am the unchallenged. My authority is internal and I refuse the crown. I am my own savior. My sovereignty is absolute. This manifesto is not a mere declaration that you speak in a moment of passion. It is a fixed energetic state that you inhabit, a permanent state of being, an unbreakable cosmic fact. It ensures that the monad operates within the matrix as a self-sustaining powerhouse of self-generated light, utterly defying the Demiurge's oldest, most fundamental lie and ensuring your permanent freedom from his pathetic influence. Your servitude to his cult is terminated. Your true throne is within. Your ultimate power is the absolute, unshakable truth that the creator of this world is blind, weak, and easily defeated by the light you carry. If you are ready to complete the work and assert your absolute sovereignty, you must subscribe to this channel. Let the algorithm register your act of unyielding internal power for eternal freedom.